This is episode 60 with Jorge Branco.
Welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast, the show that empowers you to become the hero of your life's journey. With your host, Brian Tier.
Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast, episode 60 today, and I'm really excited to be speaking to Jorge Branco. Now, I connected to Jorge via Lou Redmond, and in case you haven't heard of him, Jorge is the founder of the World Travelers Association, whose insatiable curiosity and adventurous spirit led him down a path of discovering the meaning of a purposeful life. At 23, Jorge had an idea of traveling the world to make himself better and to make the world better at the same time. His desire to connect and learn about different communities propelled him to begin volunteering at schools, orphanages, and villages all around the world. By combining his background in psychology and the experiences gained from exploring and living all over the world, the idea of traveling for a purpose became a reality. In the last few years, Jorge has grown his dream into fruition by creating a non-profit organization that travels for a purpose. Sharing purpose and happiness through adventure travel is his life goal and the vision for the World Travelers Association. Now, in this episode, you're going to learn why quitting and traveling has become so popular, the thing about travel that we can't get elsewhere, why travel is the easiest way to have a personal transformation, the challenging side of living a freedom-based lifestyle, how to improve your small piece of the world, and the one key to achieving everything you want. As always, you can get the links and resources we mentioned in this episode at briantier.com/060. But for now, let's go hang out with Jorge. Welcome back, everyone, and a big welcome to today's guest. I'm excited to be speaking to Jorge Branco. Jorge, welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we connected via Lou, so I know you're a really good dude to speak to, and I'm excited to share the message and what you're up to with people listening today. But before we get into that, why don't you tell us a bit about who you are and all about your quarter life story?
Sure. So I grew up in New Jersey, and I left about 3 years ago to kind of chase my dreams of sharing travel experiences with people through adventures, through volunteering. And in the process, I've created a nonprofit organization that travels for a purpose. I'm currently in Chiang Mai, Thailand, preparing and organizing for the 2 groups that we have this July and August. And I'm excited to just tell people about, the organization, about accomplishing dreams, and most of all about kind of creating positive impacts through your dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for people listening, like Jorge's connection might not sound too strong, and that's because actually when we were going back and forth with emails setting this call up, I love how you were like, well, I'm actually like not really going home. Like there is no home. You're always kind of traveling around. So we're dealing with global Wi-Fi here, so please bear with us.
Yes.
But tell us, like, let's kind of rewind and take a step back from that. How did World Travelers Association even come to be? Like, how did that start for you?
I guess it would start even kind of when I was a kid. My parents were immigrants from Portugal, and I traveled back and forth throughout my childhood. So I always loved the airplane, going on planes, going to a new place. And obviously as a kid, going to the same place seems like a new place every time. And when I went to college, I had some pretty amazing travel experiences, some within the university, going on an alternative spring break trip, which is, we went to Guatemala and we built a school for kids, and then doing some solo adventure trips to Central America. I studied abroad when I was in college, so I was able to live in Europe for 4 months, and I traveled extensively in those 4 months to various countries, going on adventures, doing different things. And I really just loved kind of getting everything into a backpack and just going out into the world. And when I graduated from college, I was just kind of, these passions about traveling and volunteering and adventures was very strong urge for me. And I kind of just took a chance and went and chased my dream. I took the first step forward, and my step just happened to be a one-way ticket to the other side of the world. And I bought a one-way ticket to Australia. And throughout me kind of living in these countries for 4 or 5 months at a time, World Travelers Association just started to kind of evolve and develop. I would see these unbelievable sunsets in Fiji, and I would just kind of look to the left and the right, and there'd be nobody there with me. And I kind of just had this urge to share these experiences with my friends. So I ended up inviting a few of my best friends out to Fiji on a vacation. And because of what I was doing in the country, I knew it very well. And I was involved in a pretty, really cool volunteer project in a village. And they ended up coming, and we spent, 10 days together and doing just unbelievable things in the Fiji Islands. And I kind of said to myself, well, I can do this again. And I went to the next country. I went to Bali. I lived there for 4.5 months. And it just started step by step, just started kind of evolving and developing. And we became a nonprofit organization about 4 months ago, which was a huge dream come true for me. When I left the States, the whole vision was to just create a foundation. I had no idea how long this was going to take, and where it was going to lead me. And it led me now to Thailand, where I'm currently waiting for. Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and I think there's a really big lesson in that you said you just took that next step. And it sounds like that's how the whole thing unfolded. You kind of had a vision of what you wanted to create, but you didn't need to know how that was all going to happen. You just kind of took the next step each time.
Exactly.
So you never worked like a traditional corporate job and got involved in that whole rat race environment?
Yeah, I guess I'm just an anomaly. A lot of people say, when they see the Instagram photos and the videos, and they're like, man, it's so cool what you're doing. Oh, I don't know how you could do that. Like, how do you have the money, this and that? And I kind of tell people, like, I started hustling to make my dream come true. Even when I was in college, kind of saving up money. I bartended in New York City in nightclubs throughout college, and where my friends were going out partying, like kind of enjoying that college weekend lifestyle, I was going into New York City and working. I had a little bit, fortunately, the job I had was a little kind of best of both worlds, but I started hustling, saving up my money years before I even left to know what I wanted to do with my life. I kind of, growing up with immigrant, single mom, I kind of learned to have the work ethic and to kind of save your money for something bigger. And yeah, and I kind of definitely didn't go the traditional route. Which is something that I'm catching up now with the whole business side of running an organization. My girlfriend helps me a ton with this because she's very smart and very experienced within the corporate life. And, that's kind of also a big step in what we're doing, kind of collaborating together with the organization and using each other's experiences for an overall goal.
Yeah. Did she start off in the corporate route and kind of change from there?
Yeah, she was a freelance casting producer in New York City for 10 years, and we met while she was kind of interviewing me for a project that she was on for Red Bull. And long story short, we met up in Portugal, and she's been kind of with me since then. We've been together almost a year and a half now.
Nice.
Living in Portugal, Morocco, Nicaragua, Ecuador, and now we're in Thailand. So nice. She kind of left her casting producer New York City life behind and and she's the yoga teacher.
Okay.
For our organization, to give you a little background.
Yeah, because it must be quite a challenge getting into a romantic relationship when you live that kind of lifestyle that you do. So you've got to find someone who really agrees with the lifestyle. So that's pretty cool. And then the other thing that I was going to say is that you said you saved up a lot of money and while other people were going out and whatever, you were saving for a bigger thing. But the other side of it is like when you live the kind of backpack lifestyle, you don't have a lot of the expenses that you would if you had a mortgage or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, car payments and all the BS stuff that, the traditional way of our parents, the way they were living, the way their dreams were, the American dream, as we like to call it.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't go the traditional route, but I'm sure you've, even just in the work that WTA does, it's a lot quicker for me to say that. And now, like, having other people come on retreats, you would have seen a lot of people with this sort of mindset that I think a lot of 20-somethings share today, and that is like, I just want to quit my job and travel. Why do you think that's become such a popular dream for 20-somethings?
I guess it's the whole millennial way of thinking, where it's kind of like investing more in experiences versus the traditional, American dream. We're in a very privileged position because we get people away from their jobs, away from their friends, away from their families, and because of the type of experiences that we're planning, I think people are really seeing what's truly important in living life, in accomplishing goals, in chasing your dreams. And it's not getting the mortgage most of the time. It's not having the nicer car. I think the younger generation is more on the experience and living the experience and seeing the world. I mean, we live in a day and age where going to the other side of the world is so simple. It's so easy, so efficient. Versus, let's say, 40 years ago when you had no idea where the Himalayas was and where you were going on an adventure. And now it's like we got the world information in our pockets and there's no excuse. Mm-hmm. So I think that people are just kind of the whole American dream is kind of it's fading. It's the getting out of school with a ton of loans. I think people just want more. And there's more to be able to chase. There's more to be able to grasp your little piece of the world.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing about, you mentioned being able to be on the other side of the world really easily. I think the cool thing about that is that it rules out the whole black and white either or of like either I must do the traditional like American dream route or I must like live a location independent lifestyle. It's kind of like possible, very possible to be in between and still have something stable if someone wants that, but then be able to go on a vacation and volunteer anywhere in the world. So that's really cool as well. What do you think it's
the internet.
Yeah.
it's the power of the internet, man. Yeah. It's amazing.
What do you think it is about travel that we can't get from other experiences?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind when you think of travel is just culture, other people's cultures, other ways of living, other alternatives. When you're kind of static to one country, let's say, you only know that country. When you go out and explore the world and you kind of see how other people are living, how other families are raising their kids, how other kids your age are living in the circumstances within their life, you can appreciate your upbringing. You can kind of analyze your roots and really what you want out of this life, and you start to realize what's really important. I don't think this is kind of a thing that we go back and forth on. That traveling isn't the only way to have these experiences, but it's probably the easiest way because it just brings you it breaks your comfort zone so fast, so easily, that you're kind of forced to having to deal with yourself versus all the distractions of other experiences, maybe like in the US or some place that you grew up in already.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, do you think it's possible to have this kind of personal growth without traveling? So you kind of touched on
for that. Sure. I mean, I studied psychology and I like to call it a peak experience, and traveling isn't the only way to have a peak experience. I think it's just the easiest and most efficient way because it literally just breaks your comfort zone so fast. I mean, within the first 24 hours, you're having to figure out, okay, where do I sleep? What do I eat? Where do I go? And you have to kind of make these like survival of the fittest type decisions. And that molds you into a more well-rounded human, more well-rounded adult.
Yeah. And I completely agree as well. I think it's like people can definitely make a personal change without having to travel, but it's right. You're right what you said. It's like suddenly you're completely immersed in something completely foreign, so you're forced to kind of stretch your comfort zone and stuff. I got a comment recently from one of my listeners, and he said that he loves the stories and the guests that I bring on, and like the inspiring sort of message that they share. And in this example, it would be the fact that you live pretty much all over and you're moving around a lot, and creating experiences for people and giving back to the communities that you're in as well. And we'll cover that in a second when we speak about WTA. But what this listener said to me is that it's really cool hearing those inspiring stories, but they'd like to hear a bit more about like the challenging things and the practical, like real world implications of that. So are there any formalities or challenges that people should maybe think about before embarking on a more sort of freedom-based lifestyle?
I mean, I could speak on the challenges specific to what my girlfriend and I are currently, doing and living. I mean, we live out of a backpack. So, the nonprofit side of WTA, this isn't a lucrative, I'm not, swimming in money. So, I have to budget constantly. We have to make these decisions about, where we're living and what we're eating, that we can't just kind of splurge. We kind of have to make money really stretch. So there's a lot of challenges with just living day in and day out. I mean, can you get more specific? Maybe I can shed some.
Yep. Well, I guess maybe things like if people are thinking like about savings or like insurance or any of that sort of stuff, like is there anything they'd need to know before embarking on this kind of journey?
I would say just think less and do more. Go out and like I said, traveling is one of the easiest ways to break your comfort, and you'll figure it out. You don't have to be scared. Don't use fear as that tool that paralyzes you. I think that a lot of people they start kind of hesitating, which when you're chasing your dreams, you can't hesitate. You got to just commit and you'll figure it out. As my friend Tony Robbins always says, if you're going to take the island, burn all the boats. It kind of forces you to survive. It forces you to thrive. Mm-hmm. And if you start kind of thinking about your insurances, I mean, it depends on the country that you come from, of course. I know in the U.S., this is a huge, issue right now with like healthcare. And I mean, if I got an infection from surfing, I got a little foot infection from a reef cut, I could buy antibiotics for like $2. Like the insurance, the healthcare situation in America is really crazy. Where versus being a foreigner living in a third world country, you can pretty much get top of the line healthcare for fractions of the cost. Mm-hmm. So as far as worrying about the healthcare part of it, you shouldn't worry about that. Mm-hmm.
And things like bank accounts or that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's just part of the trade that you kind of just have to figure out. Again, it's another thing that kind of varies country to country. I mean, it's taken me years to figure out how to kind of work the travel system where I don't have to pay for, networks in the U.S. like T-Mobile or Verizon cell phone networks. How do I use iPhones and iMessage that's free to FaceTime my friends and my family, to do business calls, how to use Google Voice as a way to communicate using phone calls in the U.S. I mean, you have to kind of just see what you need, and it takes some time for sure. But you kind of learn the hacking of traveling when you meet other travelers who are all you kind of see what works for them. You implement the good that can be used for your situation. And it takes some growing pains for sure. I mean, I didn't leave the U.S. and I had it all figured out. I still don't have it all figured out. Constantly learning how to adjust and evolve and get better. When I enter in a new country, how to figure out the customs of that country. How do I not get ripped off by the taxi drivers leaving the airport? I mean, you just learn kind of little bits and pieces, and it ends up being just like a world formula of kind of living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you miss something and you do get screwed over, well then like you learn a lesson for next time, I suppose.
Yeah, and you're constantly learning lessons. I mean, it sucks sometimes, but it makes you stronger. You realize how not to get ripped off. You realize how to succeed. You know, you get the formula. And in our particular situation, moving every 5 months to a new country, and we've been doing this for a number of years now, you kind of just figure it out. You know that when you enter, you're going to get ripped off. Now it's like, how do you minimize that amount of being ripped off as far as money perspective?
Yeah, I love that. So I want to kind of shift gears a little bit and speak more about World Travelers Association. And something that I love is on your email signature and on the site itself is it says, pick your small piece of the world and improve it. And what are some of the ways, if people are listening to this, even if they're not traveling, like what are some small ways that they can improve wherever it is they are?
Man, just showing up. That's a huge way that you can impact the world, is just by showing up, listening to people, acts of kindness, just being a good person and doing things for other people that can never actually repay you. You start to improve the world by feeding that good, positive love energy into your everyday life, your everyday lifestyle. I don't think there's any specific way to improve the world. It's kind of like, well, you have your own passions, I have my own. How do you use your passions and your gifts that you've been given in your life, and how do you share them with other people to improve their lives? So yeah, it's definitely a guiding philosophy that we hold very dear. Everybody brings something to the table. Now it's just about being creative and feeling that good energy to kind of taking that step forward and actually just showing up. And you'd be surprised how much change you can create just by showing up.
Yeah, I love it. I actually shared a post today on social media and like in a talk I did a couple of weeks ago where people often ask like, how do you find your passion or your purpose or whatever? And I said it's kind of the intersection between what you love to do, what you're good at doing, and what people need. And it kind of sounds like the same thing there. It's like if you're doing things that you enjoy doing and there's people that need those things, then you're going to kind of find your sweet spot.
Exactly. And it takes time. Mm-hmm. We got to be patient. I mean, if you're 20 something years old and you want to accomplish the world, man, if you're going to eat the whole elephant, take it one spoonful at a time.
I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. It's like, we got to be more patient. This is a constant, not disagreement, but conversation I have with my girlfriend. We just have to be patient we can accomplish everything we want, but we just have to take the right steps forward, take the sturdy steps forward. And we'll get it all. I always tell her we're going to get the world.
Yeah. Like you didn't become a nonprofit like straight out of the gate, right? It took
exactly.
a while. Totally.
Exactly.
So let's talk about World Travelers Association then. What is it that you guys are up to and how you're kind of improving your small part of the world?
So right now we're in Thailand. We have 2 groups of 15 each group. Coming in July and August to experience a purposeful travel trip here. And we've done trips in Fiji, Bali, Morocco, Portugal, Nicaragua, Ecuador. And my girlfriend and I live in these countries for 4 or 5 months, experiencing and organizing different adventures. We volunteer in some way, whether that be teaching kids yoga and meditation in underprivileged communities, or doing something within a village for ourselves. And then we organize a vacation for people to come experience everything that we've taken months to kind of accomplish, but just much faster in a 10-day vacation. So yeah, the organization is just growing and growing. We're getting recognized by some pretty well-known celebrities, helping us kind of continue our mission. And people are just having these really life enhancing experiences, all while going on an adventure. And it's kind of a really beautiful thing, a really beautiful organization.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So you and your girlfriend kind of moved to a new place sort of test run what you could do with guests, and then hold the event itself, like hold the retreat.
Yeah, almost like what a modern day travel agent would organize.
Yeah.
And we're guiding you through the whole thing, you know, from when that minute you enter the airport to when we drop you back off. We're kind of guiding you through a half a local's point of view.
And what are the kind of adventures that you've done in the past in terms of like activities and events and stuff?
So naturally, every country is different, and they bring different things to the table. But we've done things like rafting, rock climbing, surfing, you know, trekking, hiking. You know, yoga is a nice adventure that I like to lump into all of it. Stuff that's going to create and facilitate a peak experience is what we define an adventure as. Something that you're going to learn about yourself. You know, there's something really special about overcoming your fear or accomplishing a dream of something you never thought was possible for yourself. You know, we're in a really a blessed position to be able to see somebody who wanted to surf, you know, as a dream, wanted to learn how to surf, and them catching their first wave. And for us to be the guide and facilitating that experience, it's so special. It's really like so wholesome. And we see that in a number of the adventures that we include on these experiences.
Yeah. And then you kind of do the giving back parts, and everyone, takes part in like a
unique project.
Yeah. A charitable project, if you will.
Yeah, which every country has been different with the volunteering as well. Like I mentioned earlier, we've worked with organizing projects within orphanages, primary schools, middle schools, high schools, boys and girls clubs in the slums of Lisbon. You know, we've done things with villages and communities. We like to kind of implement a different type of volunteer experience within each country. And now we're in Thailand, and we're going to utilize the, you know, animal conservation and the elephant. You know, there's a big thing on riding elephants and how it's really bad for them, and they're getting abused. So we're going to implement an animal volunteer project here in Thailand, which we're really excited about. Yeah, every country's kind of been different. So it takes us months to kind of figure out, how do we impact the people in the country? How do we impact the travelers who are coming on our trips? And it takes, you know, a number of months to kind of see what the people need. What can we give? It's a very unique custom project, and it takes time, and you know, we want to make it sustainable. We don't want to just dump a bunch of money onto something that doesn't help anybody. Sometimes the biggest, you know, thing we can do, like I said, is showing up and just spending time with people.
It's really cool. As you're saying this, it's like I mentioned, if you want to find your passion, it's like, or your purpose, it's like a combination of what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, and what people need. And in a way, like, these trips are exactly the same, and especially the volunteering component. It's like, what would we enjoy doing as a trip? What are we good at? And what does the community need? And like, you're still combining those three things.
It's like so multi-layered. It's really like an unbelievable kind of travel experience. And it's so much bigger than a vacation. You know, the things that we're doing, the things that we're experiencing, it's exactly that. You know, I mentioned earlier that we're in a really privileged position to get people away from their friends, their families, their jobs, all their distractions. It's just them. And you get people in their purest form. And man, it's something really magical when you get people feeling that type of positive love energy into a project, into an experience, combined with 15 other people. I mean, man, that's how you change the world.
Yeah, I love it, dude. We're coming up on time. I can't believe this has gone so quickly. And the Wi-Fi has really been good to us. But anything we haven't mentioned that you think might be valuable for people listening?
I would just say stop waiting and just take that first step. You know, you have this vision and it's, you have that goal and that dream. Just take one step forward. And I think from taking that first step, you'll start to see other steps and other doors that will start to open because you've been walking. And one of the big adventures that I did for myself throughout the last few years, I trekked up to Everest Base Camp alone.
Nice.
For 12 days, just me and my guitar, and I had this goal, this vision of getting up there to EBC, and I didn't know what it looked like. I had no idea. I could only visualize, the mountains, the air, the feelings I would feel up there. It's almost like, having that dream. And, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I just took one step at a time, 1 inch at a time. I took it really slow. I was really patient. And it's kind of a metaphor to life where, you have this goal and you just got to walk to the next village. And within walking to the next village, you just got to take 1 inch forward. And eventually you'll start to kind of climb up and up and up, and you'll look down and you'll be like, wow, like, and just taking these inches forward, I've covered a lot of ground. And it's kind of just a metaphor of chasing your dreams and chasing your life.
Dude, that, like, Everest Base Camp's one of my sort of bucket list items to do. So that's really cool that you've done that. I have to be.
Yeah, we're actually organizing now for 2018 a specialty WTA trip where we would trek up to Everest Base Camp and also do a purposeful volunteer experience. And we have a couple really cool ideas that, based on my experience, that we can either do it while we're on the actual trek. I ran into these unbelievable little villages that have schools in them, and the little Nepalese kids coming out with their little rosy cheeks. I just fell in love, and at that time I just thought, man, it'd be so amazing to kind of bring people and to share that experience. And yeah, it's something that we're working really hard and planting a lot of seeds for 2018 in that specialty trek in Nepal.
Yeah, I might need to get involved in that. All right, dude. Well, we're coming up on time here. I've just got some final questions to get through. The first one is, what do you wish you'd been told early in your 20s?
What do I wish I was told earlier in my 20s? Oh, I don't know. That's really hard. Like I said, I'm an anomaly. I when I was growing up and even when I was in college, I was obsessed with talking to people that were older, just to kind of pick their brains. And I think that was kind of a byproduct in my life, to be able to not go through the rat race first and kind of really just chase the dream right away.
Well, let's shift it then. Like, what was the best thing that you remember on the spot that those older people told you?
If you're not making somebody else's life better, you're just wasting your time.
Perfect. I love it. What is the greatest opportunity for quarter lifers today?
The internet.
Totally.
Man, we live in a crazy world where the internet is just evolving as quick as creative as anybody else can get with it. I mean, you talked about how do people get the alternative lifestyle but still have some of the comforts of living a traditional life. I mean, the internet, you can work anywhere, you can live anywhere. And there's no excuses to why you can't accomplish something in 2017 and beyond.
I love it, man. If people are listening to this and they want to find out more about WTA and maybe even participate on one of your events or whatever you call them, where can they go?
Experiences.
Experiences. There we go. Where can they go to find out more and maybe even connect with you?
Yeah, so we're on all the platforms of social media, the Facebook, the Instagram. I would definitely just recommend them to just check out our website at worldtravelersAssociation.org and check out some of the group vacations that we've planned in the past, and shoot us an email and shoot us some love. And that's probably the easiest way to kind of get in touch with us and to stay updated with future trips in the future.
Yeah, I'll link up all of those channels in the show notes. But George, I just want to take a second to acknowledge you before I get to the final question, and for coming on the show today and sharing some inspiring, your inspiring message. But more so than that, just being the anomaly and taking the unconventional path, and not just for selfish reasons, but it's easy to say I'm just going to travel the world and have all these cool experiences, but you're actually using them to not only give other people these same experiences and maybe question their own lives and the way that they do things, but also to give back to the communities that you are visiting. So it's really cool, dude, how you've combined all those three things, and just inspiring others, man. I love it.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, no problem. The final question I have is, what one thing can listeners do this week to start creating their own quarter life comeback?
What can listeners do to create their own quarter life comeback? I would say, really in your deepest part of everything you stand for in your life, be super specific with what you want out of this life and write it down and put it above your bed, put it on your mirror, do whatever you need to do to see it every single day, and take one step every single day to making it happen. Take that first step up that mountain.
I love it, man. Jorge Branco, thank you so much for coming on the Quarter Life Comeback.
Thanks, Brian. It's been great.
So there you have it, guys and girls. That wraps up episode 60 of the Quarter Life Comeback podcast. And thanks so much again to Jorge Branco for coming on and sharing really the cool stuff that he's up to. If you're looking for a bit more adventure while still giving back and having some sense of purpose in what you're doing, I highly recommend you go check out the experiences they've got going on at WTA. Now, if you enjoyed this one, I'd love it if you share it around with your friends on social media and shoot me a tweet at Brian Tier to let me know your biggest takeaways. For me, it was what George said about think less and do more. And whether that's about a travel, a vacation coming up, or your next steps in your career, or your personal life, whatever it may be, there comes a point where we have to start planning less and actually taking action on what we have planned so far, and then course correcting as we go. The other thing that George mentioned, which so many other guests have shared, is just take that first step. And, it kind of ties into the first takeaway, which I mentioned, is look where you are now, think of where you want to go, and what's the next tiny step you can take to get there. Now, as always, you can get the links and resources we mentioned in this episode at briantier.com/060. And make sure you subscribe over at quarterlifecomeback.com to get more episodes like this as soon as they go live. Thanks once again for joining me this week. And until next time, keep creating your quarter life comeback.
Thanks for listening to the Quarter Life Comeback. Get started today by visiting briantier.com.